When we think of more advanced workout splits than the caveman chest day, back day, bro split type deal, push-pull leg split might be the first one that comes to mind. In fact, you yourself might be currently running the PPL rest, PPL split. I've definitely done it before in the past, but let me tell you why I ultimately think the push-pull leg split is overrated when it comes to maximizing muscle growth. Let's get into it. First, I'm gonna talk about what the PPL split actually is, and then I'm gonna go into the 5 most important factors in determining an optimized workout split for muscle growth. And lastly, I'm gonna see how the PPL split actually compares to those 5 factors. PPL workout split is a 3 or 6 day workout split where each day focuses on training synergistic muscle groups involved in one of 3 functions. Firstly, there's pushing, which involves the chest, triceps, and front delts. Then there's pulling, which involves all the muscles in the back, biceps, as well as the rear delts. And then there's the lower body functions, which is essentially a leg day. Now you might be thinking, wait a sec, what about the other muscles not included in that list? So the side delts as well as the abs. Well, those are usually tacked onto one of the pushing or pull days. Now if you run through this PPL workout pattern once, then that's a 3-day split. If you run through it twice, then that is a 6-day split. Now that we understand what PPL is, let's talk about the 5 factors that go into an optimized workout split for muscle growth. Let's go. Remember, a workout split can only be optimized if you can actually show up to it in the first place. So above anything else, before you even consider anything else, make sure it fits your schedule. But you already probably knew that. Let's get on to the juicy ones. Now the second factor is an optimized workout split not only will allow you to hit every single muscle group per week, but it will also allow you to get in at least 8 sets per muscle group per week. Now in some cases, you're probably gonna be well over that 8 sets per week mark, which isn't a bad thing. It's actually usually a pretty good thing. The general accepted range for optimizing muscle growth, that's not like too low that you're not getting enough of stimulus or too high that you're feeling overtrained and you can't recover, is 8 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. So I'm not gonna get hyper specific into volume in this video, but as long as you're within that 8 to 20 sets per muscle group per week, you're pretty much good. Now the third factor is train every muscle group twice per week. Evidence has shown that training every muscle group twice per week instead of lumping all your workout volume all in one day generally is better for hypertrophy. And this makes sense because of the next factor. Number 4 is an optimized workout split should minimize fatigue so you can better perform on your workout. Now, fatigue is essentially a waste byproduct of training hard in the gym. So we want to minimize this when we can because the more fatigue you incur, the more your performance will suffer in the gym, meaning it's harder for you to progressive overload and thus harder for you to build muscle. A very common sign of fatigue, especially early on, is soreness. So you want to do a workout split where by the time you train that same muscle group again, you are fully recovered, meaning there's absolutely no soreness whatsoever in the target muscle group that you're going to be training. So knowing how to actually minimize that soreness and fatigue is going to be super important if you want to optimize muscle growth. And then moving on to the 5th factor is you need to be training consistently close enough to failure, as well as progressive overloading over time if you want to build muscle. The TLDR for this is the closer you train to failure, the more you're going to be maximizing mechanical attention, which is the stimulus for muscle growth. Additionally, by training close enough to failure, you're able to maximize the recruitment of high threshold motor units, which essentially means you're involving as many muscle fibers in that target muscle as possible. So those are the 5 factors, but let me throw in a bonus 6th factor, which is for most natural lifters, you want to condense your workout under 2 hours, because once you go beyond the 2-hour mark, you're not going to be as focused on the workout, you're probably going to be incurring a lot of fatigue, and it's just not a productive use of your time in my humble opinion. Now, if you're personally struggling with creating your own workout split, then I highly recommend you apply to my exclusive one-on-one fitness coaching program, where I'll pretty much be able to create a custom workout program for you, no matter how many days per week you want to go to the gym, and of course, it will follow all 6 factors that I literally just mentioned. Additionally, if you need nutrition advice, I can provide you a list of recipes that are portioned out to fit your goals, as well as even weekly check-ins and the ability to message me anytime. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely apply in the link in the description. Let's get it. So now that we understand what goes into an optimized workout split, let's see how PPL compares to those previous 6 factors. Starting with the first one, push-pull leg can fit in your schedule, but it is a somewhat rigid workout split. You're either stuck between doing 3 days or 6 days, unless you do a hybridized approach of maybe PPL upper lower as a 5-day split. Now, if you're leaning towards doing a 3-day PPL split, I probably wouldn't recommend it, just because if you miss a workout, well, there goes your entire workout volume for the week on that specific function. Instead, if you're looking to go only 3 days, you can do something like a full body split 3 times per week or upper lower full body. Now, if you're able to dedicate a full 6 days per week on PPL, then I don't really think that's a bad approach. But essentially, if you fall under that, then I recommend doing some sort of hybridized approach where if you are gonna do PPL, maybe for a 5-day split, you're doing PPL upper lower. If it's a 4-day split, I'd probably just opt for doing like upper lower instead. Ooh, okay. Now on to the second factor. PPL does in fact allow you to train every single muscle group. In fact, it's probably the strongest factor that PPL tends to excel at, because I literally have no complaints here. I actually even think the PPL split is good for teaching you how different muscle groups work together, such as chest, front delts, and triceps all contributing in pushing exercises, and then biceps, back and rear delts contributing in pulling exercises. However, when talking about the third factor, which was frequency, this is where PPL can start to falter. If you can dedicate 6 days per week, then PPL is fine. However, if you're leaning towards doing the 3-day PPL split, then I highly discourage you to do that, because again, you're not gonna be able to train every single muscle group twice per week. So like I've previously mentioned before, if you can only dedicate 3 times per week to the gym, instead of doing PPL, I highly recommend you do full body or upper lower full body. This will actually allow you to hit every muscle group twice per week. And when we get to the 4th factor, here's the biggest problem I see with the PPL split. And that is the fact that it is highly prone to fatigue. Now, because you're only training synergistic muscle groups on a PPL split, your later exercise will always suffer from fatigue. Think about how you feel on the last tricep exercise on a push day. You're probably like pretty much mentally checked out already. You're definitely fatigued, and it's very hard for you to actually like train hard and progress. Now, this problem is exacerbated when you start out with compound lifts in the beginning of your workout and then move on to isolation exercises at the end, which, let's be honest, that usually means triceps and biceps get the brunt of this issue. Now, over time, if you start noticing some torso dominance in your physique, then what you can do is move your bicep and tricep exercises near the front of the workout, perhaps the second exercise of the day. But see, then there's a trade-off where you're not gonna be as strong in your later compound exercises that goes after your triceps and biceps exercises. So for example, let's say you do tricep pushdowns before an incline dumbbell bench press. Well, inherently, because you're training triceps first, your incline dumbbell bench press will suffer. So it really is a zero-sum game when we're talking about the push-pull leg split and exercise order, which you have to be aware of. Now let's talk about the coveted 6-day PPL split, which so far has done pretty well in our factor. Let's be honest here, the 6-day PPL split is gonna incur the most fatigue compared to the 3-day. Instead, opting for an upper-lower split means less sets per muscle group in one workout, but because of this, you're able to decrease fatigue, as well as probably incur less junk volume, which is essentially volume that's pointless due to high amounts of fatigue or a lack of progression, which brings me to the next point. Okay, now the fifth factor, kind of going off the last one, is PPL will make it harder for you to progressive overload on your later exercises. Now, this isn't going to be a problem on your first exercise. However, think about it. If you choose to PR, then you're probably going to be training very close to failure. And the closer you get to failure, the more fatigue you're going to incur. So it's kind of a balancing act. On one hand, you can train very close to failure, potentially even PR, and maximize muscle growth. But on the other hand, if you do train close to failure, you're going to be incurring fatigue that's going to impact the rest of your later exercises. On another split, let's say upper-lower, the main type of fatigue you're going to be incurring is CNS fatigue, which is also going to be present in PPL as well. However, the difference here is on top of that, you're also going to be incurring direct muscle fatigue because, if you choose to bench press and then you choose to do cable flies afterwards, obviously you're going to be more tired in chest flies compared to if you did a bench press and then like a lat pull down, which involves completely different muscle groups. And overall, this simply makes it harder for you to progressive overload on those later exercises. The PPL split highly favors the early beginning exercises in your workout. Lastly, talking about that bonus factor. So the PPL overall is not the most efficient workout split. You can't program antagonistic supersets in a way that makes sense with the exception of side delt training. So quick tip, if you're choosing to do PPL, definitely superset some of your exercises with side delt. It's a great way to make things more efficient. But on top of that, if you're doing a 3-day PPL split, you have to get all 8 sets for those synergistic muscle groups on one workout, which means a longer workout as a whole, more sets, more exercises, and it can make it a lot harder to condense things under 2 hours. Especially when you think about 8 sets is the minimum, right? We have a range of 8 to 20 here. Instead, if you're planning to go to the gym less than 6 days per week, you're better off doing some sort of upper-lower split, full body, a hybridized approach, maybe PPL upper-lower, where you're at least dividing your workout volume across 2 workouts. On top of that, if you go with upper-lower or full body, you can actually use antagonistic supersets to make your workouts a lot more efficient. So all in all, understand that you can build muscle on a PPL split. I'm not denying that. However, if you're struggling to get consistent on a 6-day PPL, or maybe you can only dedicate less than 6 days, or hey, maybe you've plateaued on the PPL split, then I highly encourage you to try a different workout split that might actually in fact be better for maximizing muscle growth. So with that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please leave a like to support my page. Not only hit subscribe, but also hit the bell button so you get these videos as I literally upload them. It would be much appreciated. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.